Hello again, and welcome to Georgia Power. I'm Maynard Eaton. The producer is Okeeba Jubalo. Our guest truly represents Georgia Power. He's C. David Moody, Atlanta's top black contractor, architect, motivational speaker. I mean, what don't you do, man?
I don't cook well, but everything else
But there's some who really argue that we talk about Herman Russell,
Right.
was the Michael Jordan of black contractors in Atlanta. Some say you're number two and maybe the Charles Barkley of it.
Well, I accept that because Charles Barkley tells it like it is, gets the job done, but has a good time. As we talk about it, I went through some things in my life as a child that it affected me, that made me really appreciate living, and I've always wanted to do what I'm doing, which is construction. And I always thought first I'd be an architect. I became an architect. I thought I'd have an architectural firm, but I took a field assignment with Bechtel in the nuclear power business in 1981. And I fell in love with construction, and I realized that's what I really could be good at doing. So I took my knowledge of architecture and went into construction.
Wow. Now, have you become, as somebody told me today, the darling of the new generation of construction magnates? I mean, you seem to be the guy. I mean,
Well, I take that as a compliment, but I don't know if I'm the new generation. I'm 62. I've been doing this on my own for 30 years. I've been in the industry now 38 years. So I guess the difference is that I look at, I do a lot also, not just building, but I try and build people and sharing my story and some of the challenges I went through being a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. So I think I'm more active in the community as far as trying to help people heal.
But are you also helping folks build their legacy also within your industry, the construction and architectural industry? You know, there are those who argue that Herman was the first and there weren't many that came afterwards, and this kind of fell off. I mean, there was a lion's share of construction contracts back in the day. There are those who argue there's only a minuscule now.
Well, one of the things I've done that I try and open the doors to as many people as possible. Mm-hmm. And when you work for us, you see the whole business. We don't pigeonhole you. And I have a number of people who have worked for me who are now have their own construction companies. We're still very close. I still mentor them because I'm one of those people who believe there's enough to go around for everybody. We need more young people in this industry. Both my kids are now in the business, and I have other young folks in the business. So I feel very good about the next generation, not just at C.D. Moody Construction, but in the industry at whole.
Or they become your competitors as well, some of these young folks? Or they're not up to your level yet?
Well, we compete sometimes, but I never concern myself about competition.
Really?
Because this is my mindset. If I spend my time worrying about my competition,
you're not gonna do your job.
I'm not doing my job. Right. Just be good at what you do.
What are you good at doing? What is your expertise in this industry?
I think was the love I have for it. Since I was a kid, I used to do the Lego building blocks. I just always felt a desire to draw and design. I'm not a good freehand drawer, but I'm a good designer. But I also realized, and I think this is something very important, even though I finished Morehouse in '78, then I went to Howard and got my professional degree in architecture, I learned pretty early that I would just be an average architect, but I knew I could be a great builder.
Really?
Because I didn't have to be creative in the design, but I could take somebody else's drawings and build it because I understood the process in designing it. But also, I believe in the old master builder. It was a black architect from Hampton who finished in the 40s who was my mentor. He was the first black architect I met when I was about 17 years old. And I worked for him for a couple of summers. And he taught me about being a master builder, which meant you took pride and you were a craftsman and you really wanted your work to be great. So I'm from that old school master builder mentality.
Well, he went to the greatest black college in America, Hampton.
Yeah, so I got to give you your props. Now, Hampton, y'all the real deal. Now, the beauty by the sea.
I got to mess with you a little bit.
I'm going to give that to you.
Mr. Morehouse, man.
Well, you know, I was just going to it's your show, so I'm going to respect your show. But we all know we're number one, but it's your show.
That's mighty nice of you, sir.
Yes.
You're called the second largest minority contractor in Georgia. And you've had your hand in it, correct me if I'm wrong, Underground, Hartsfield-Jackson Airport International. I could go on and on, World of Coca-Cola. What's been what have you done that's really kind of, hey, I did that one? I mean, you've done a lot.
One of them that really is a couple. One is the Ray Charles Performing Arts Center.
Yeah.
That one means a lot to me because we built a premier performing arts center with the acoustics are phenomenal, but also for what Ray Charles stood for. Here's a man, especially in his time period, to be blind.
Yeah.
And he was basically in that time period, if you were blind, especially poor, nobody thought you'd do anything. So to see him do what he did with music, but also what he did as a businessman, and then give back. But the Ray Charles Performing Arts Center is one of my ones that really means something to me. All jobs are important to me, but one we're doing now is the cyclorama. We built the new cyclorama.
Okay.
And then we had to move the painting from the old cyclorama to the new one, and to have my sign on Paces Ferry meant a lot to me. You know, to be over there and do the History Center and then the cyclorama.
I saw your sign on West Paces Ferry.
Yeah, and that meant a lot to me.
It meant a lot to me too.
Yeah.
Really. I said, God, he's over here too.
Yeah, so that meant a lot, but also I found it interesting when you think about it, that painting's about the Civil War.
Yeah.
And here's a black-owned company doing the new structure for that painting. So I often think about when I look at the painting, when I go in and look at the different things we're doing now, and I think about in the 60s during this war, that we weren't even free yet. And here I am building the building that sits in. To me, it means a lot to me because a lot of people died for me to be doing what I'm doing.
Interesting. Are you very political, or do you have to be political to get the work you get? Many argue that, black folks want to get a piece of some of these developments. You seem like you're doing the main collide here.
Well,
is that political?
No, I'm not political. I've never been political.
But don't you have to be, sir?
No, I don't think you have to be.
I'm asking. I don't know.
I don't think you have to be. I think you have to be in the community. I think you have to be visible. I think people have to see you're genuine. I think people have to see you're doing it for the right reason. I've never been one of those people who felt like anybody owed me anything but a fair chance. Now, I will say this, and I say it often. If it hadn't have been for the City of Atlanta's program, I wouldn't be sitting here today. City of Atlanta's minority programs, it didn't guarantee you success. It didn't guarantee you anything but an opportunity. And that's where a lot of people, I think, miss it sometimes. When I got my first opportunity at Underground Atlanta, I knew then I had one shot, and I had to knock it out the park.
Right.
And
because they're going to come back the second time.
Well, and not just that. I've always been one of those folks, because my parents grew up, went to Central State University, HBCU. Yeah. My paternal grandfather came to America at 17 from Belize, which was then British Honduras in 1901. And he worked his way over on a banana boat. He knew no one. And he knew he was coming to Jim Crow and segregation, but he believed he had a better chance to get an education here. And he raised 8 kids. He never owned a car. But all 8 kids got advanced degrees. They grew up in a shotgun house in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Wow.
My paternal grandmother, she was a sharecropper in Social Circle, Georgia, and went to Chicago in the 30s with the Great Migration. But the stories that they told me about, working hard, not giving up, yes, racism exists, but you still fight, still go for it, just instilled in me that what I do is bigger than me. It's for those who are going to come behind me who want an opportunity. And if I mess up for those who come behind me, because people will say, see, y'all can't do it, or y'all messed that up. So I take this as much bigger than me.
We're on the campus here of Clark Atlanta University and the CAU TV. The lessons you learned are lessons you still teach and other students should know? I mean, they still resonate today?
Oh, no doubt. You got to remember, when I was here, man, the AU Center was swinging. I came in 1974. Morris Brown was in his heyday. Clark was Clark College. We had Atlanta University, we had Morehouse, we had Spelman. We had ITC. I mean, it was off the chain. I mean, we had probably 12,000 students on campus. You gotta remember, when I came here in 74, blacks weren't really going to the white universities, a handful. But this was the place. I mean, this was the Mecca. Atlanta had just reached 1 million people.
Yeah.
I mean, but this area,
city government.
But the AU Center in the 70s, Man, wasn't nothing better than that. That's when Martin Luther King was still Hunter Street. And Pasco's, you can still go over there at the hotel and get.
Say they were pride.
Oh man, that was the place. That was the place.
In terms of business now, are there still opportunities for young people in the construction business? And we're going to be back. We'll take that up when we come back after this break, okay?
Sounds good.
You're all watching Georgia Power with C. David Moody.
As an artist here in Atlanta, one of the challenging things about it is that when you're really, really progressive and your work is cutting edge, you'll find yourself pretty much in a box, you know, and that box, you know what I'm saying, it's one of those things where you can be excluded from certain opportunities, certain platforms, because if your work goes against the grain in comparison to the handful of hand-picked artists who are constantly placed on certain pedestals or certain platforms year after year after year, if it goes in the opposite direction, then the gatekeepers won't allow for you to find yourself on that platform or to even take a look at, you know, pretty much anywhere in America. And I've never seen so many talented black artists in one concentrated city in comparison to Atlanta.
Hello again, and welcome back to Georgia Power. Our guest is the renowned C. David Moody Jr., architect, contractor, builder, and also a man who had a hand in what we were just talking about, college development.
Right. Well, you know, one of the things I think, and you had asked me earlier, you said, are there opportunities for the young folks? I think the opportunities today are actually greater than when I came along, but I think it's a different kind of opportunity. I think there's more opportunities in technology, different kind of businesses. Construction, there's still opportunities, but it's tougher to get into this industry with the bonding requirements, financing you gotta have. But it's still good opportunities. But I'm a firm believer, I don't care what the business is, you gotta love that business. Because one thing that you have to understand as an entrepreneur, you never stop working. Even though I might take vacations and do all kind of stuff, I am constantly thinking and working about the next project. Because I'm in the business, I eat what I kill. You know, I don't get a project and I got that project for 20 years or 10 years. Once it's done being built, that client might not build anything else again. So we're constantly on the hunt. We eat what we kill. In fact, I've told my younger folks in the business now, I said, you know, y'all gonna not only help us hunt and kill, but y'all gonna learn how to skin it. and that's one of the biggest things that I've learned.
Because it is hunting for business.
No, you're constantly on the hunt. Because I learned a buddy taught me who's in business about reoccurring income. You know, he has a security business where he has a security firm and he does the monitoring and stuff. So once he gets you paying that $20 or $30 a month, unless he messes up, he's going to have reoccurring every month. So he just keeps building clients. Well, in my industry, once a building's built, even though we do a great job, that client might not build again for 20 years, if at all. So we got to keep always hunting. But I think there are great opportunities for young people. I think the biggest challenge, I think, for a lot of people is patience. This did not happen overnight. I remember pacing the floor at 4 a.m, just hoping I could pay our few bills that my wife and young kids had.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Even though you had those 2 degrees,
it don't matter. I mean, when you become
a black Atlanta,
it don't matter. When you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to make ends meet, and again, see, I started a business with a loan from a bank for about $5,000. We were broke. So being an entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart.
But wasn't it political? Didn't politics have to play a role in it, especially in black Atlanta?
Well,
or your expertise?
When you say politics played a role, I think it played a role by having the programs that allow African American business and women business to finally get opportunities. Exactly. So yes, politics played a role for opportunities, but I didn't have to play politics to get work because nobody really knew me. Nobody knew me. You know, I was just a new guy on the block.
So what distinguished you then?
I think one of the things that distinguished me because I love this business and I had this training in it. I wanted to do this because this is what I love. I didn't do it because it was opportunity for black businesses. This is what I always wanted to do.
Did you also, or your mother wanted you to be a mayor one day? I read
No, what happened was my dad was stationed in Panama in 1955, and my mother was pregnant with me, so coming into 1956, I'm born May 1956, my mother decided at about 7 months pregnant to come back to the States because she said, I wanted you to be born in the States in case you wanted to be president one day. And what's amazing, that even in 1956, my parents believed that if I wanted to be president one day, I could, and then Barack Obama actually became president. So that's why my mother, she didn't want me to be that. She just said in case I decided to, they could never say I wasn't a citizen of the U.S., even though my dad was stationed in Panama and I still would have been a citizen supposedly. She wanted to take away any doubt.
Are you a political person? Politics play a major role in your business and your life as well?
The only politics that plays in my life are making sure that people who are elected are helping people and really doing the right thing to help stuff. I've just never been a political person. I don't get involved in politics as far as hanging out with any politicians at any level.
Really?
Never have.
That's different. I've been in Atlanta for 40 years, and all business types kind of rub shoulders with the politicians to get those contracts.
Nah.
That's not been your modus operandi, huh?
Never. I just, you know what, I'm one of those guys, my wife and I laugh. We just, we live on 4.5 acres with a fishing pond and animals. I'm just I'm a country boy from the city. So I used to attend a lot of events. Yeah. But over the years, I just kind of stopped doing that. I just, enjoy what I do.
And part of what you do, though, is talk to folks. I mean, talk about your life and talk about your business and on Facebook and other social media stuff. You become something of a social media sort of pioneer and giant, talking about your business and the many other things you do other than just being a builder.
Well, I think one of the things I came to grips with, as I said earlier, I'm a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. And I had buried that until I was 36 years old. I had planned on dying with that secret. And my wife found out that someone close to her had been sexually abused, and I blurted it out to her, my wife.
She didn't know either.
Nobody knew. I was dying with, that was a secret that I was dying with. And unfortunately, 1 in 10 will be sexually abused before the age of 18. There's an estimated 42 million survivors just in the United States. So anyway, I tell my wife, and a month or so goes by, and I start having panic attacks. And
but I haven't released it?
Yes. That stress, it was like a pressure cooker. Right. And I finally released it, but I realized when I look back, I had been hiding, you're trying to suppress something like that. I always kept myself busy in sports and all that kind of stuff, but
business.
But I always tried to keep running because I didn't want to sit still and have to deal with it. So when I finally said it, it just manifested itself into anxiety and panic attacks. In fact, I had one so bad a couple months after that in 1992 that I actually pretty much had a nervous breakdown, but I couldn't stop working because I had a young business. So, because at that time we still hadn't put 2 and 2 together, that the sexual abuse from 26 years ago was causing this 26 years later. So we went and had every test known to man done, and they said, sir, nothing's wrong. And just so happened, I talked to a psychiatrist friend who I was telling them what was going on, and she's the one who told me those are panic attacks. So once I ended up going and get counseling and understanding, we kind of finally put 2 and 2 together. But it still took me another 20 years after that to speak publicly.
Get out of here.
Oh, in 1992, when I said it and we dealt with it, that was private. No one knew. Nobody knew how bad a shape I was in. So
how long did it take you to overcome it or deal with it? Really?
I'm gonna say it probably took a couple of years to get comfortable because I was so broken, but I had a young family and a business. I couldn't stop.
Right.
Realistically, when I look back,
and wouldn't let it stop you.
Yeah, I should have been somewhere resting and recovering. I didn't have that. I couldn't do it. So it took me a couple of years to get comfortable again. But once I understood the panic attacks, that was okay. But still in 92, people weren't really talking about sexual abuse and the impact. People might say there was sexual abuse, but no one talked about the impact it has on you with PTSD. So I really speak up now to help those who are suffering in silence, not just from sexual abuse, but any kind of trauma that affects them. But also I speak up about mental health, that it's okay to go get counseling. You're not crazy. But too many people are taking destructive lifestyles with alcohol and drugs and different stuff to hide that pain, and I understand that. I didn't, but I understand why people would. So I speak up to hopefully free people, and I even wrote a book, and I have a...
We'll talk about that.
Yeah,
talk about that.
But I'm just telling you, so that's why I speak up so much, because I want people to understand, regardless of what you've been through, one, you can overcome it. Two, you're not alone. You don't have to suffer in silence, but you can still have an incredible life.
David Moody, Atlanta businessman, but also an author who's talking about his life and in business and in overcoming sexual abuse. We'll be right back. You're looking at Georgia Power. I'm Maynard Eaton. See you in a minute.
My name is Maurice Evans. I live in the Atlanta area. I'm an artist, mixed media artist, filmmaker, photographer. I love the visual arts, painting. I love fashion, illustration at the time. I've always loved the arts. So I always knew I was going to be an artist. Since I was 6 years old, I knew that. Yeah.
Again, we're back at Georgia Power. I'm Maynard Eaton. The producer is Okeeba Jubalo. Our guest is the renowned businessman, author, and celebrity of some sort, C. David Moody, a Morehouse man.
Yes.
An author.
Yes.
Are you spending as much time now talking about sexual abuse and lecturing and helping folks as you are building things?
I would say it's getting close to where I'm gonna say 30% of my time is going around the country speaking, doing my website for moodyspeaks.com, posting stuff, because I get so much back from people.
Do you really?
Yeah, I mean, I spoke yesterday for a major international company, and before I left the building, I had 3 emails from people who were there just saying thank you. Because so many people are suffering in silence because they think they're alone. Because one of the things I learned when I was dealing with this in 1992, I didn't have anywhere to turn where somebody talked about what it's like to have panic attacks from this, what PTSD is like, having a breakdown but still trying to work. So I decided in 2000.
It's not easy to share with folks either.
So I decided in 2012, my business had reached a certain point. I'm 62 now. At that time, I was 56. And I just finally said, you know what? The time has come that I'm going to be very transparent about this. And the way it really happened when I started my blog, moodyspeaks.com, it was going to be a celebration of my 25 years in business at that time.
Okay.
And what ended up happening when I got to 1992, because every week I wrote a different year. And then I said, you can't tell 1992 unless you tell the whole story. And what happened when I disclosed in that post that I had been sexually abused, that was the greatest day it had ever been read. I mean, that thing just went viral.
Really?
And that's when I realized something was there. And then
because others had...
Right. And I've had so many, especially men, open up to me who have been carrying this for 50 and 60 years. Especially when you're a heterosexual male,
right.
And then if a male has sexually abused you, you really shut up, And whether
you question yourself?
Well, you don't question yourself. You question, how did you let that happen to yourself as a child?
Gotcha.
But a predator who's older, they threaten you, they're very good at what they do. And here's the other thing that's important. I'm in the training film for Darkness to Light, d2l.org, for anybody who wants to get resources from them. They're an international group that helps with prevention and training on how to see it and deal with it. but 90% of predators is someone in the family or close to the family. It's not that person in the trench coat. And the reason I always bring that up, there are a lot of survivors because it was somebody in the family or a family member or someone close to the family, they're forced to basically be quiet because they don't want to mess up the family dynamics. Right. So that survivor has to still be around that person and all that. Fortunately for me, it was a male babysitter, the older son of our regular babysitter, and I never had to see him again. And then we moved to Michigan when I was 14, so I was able to really bury it because I left the environment. Too many people have to still live in that environment and see the people or person, and it's just very destructive.
I bet you had a sharp eye on your children too, but whether or not I did. Concerned I just imagine having lived through it.
Let me tell you what I did that was important. One of the things I really made sure of, I didn't want to put my fears or what happened to me on my children.
Gotcha.
So I had a sharp eye, but my kids still had sleepovers and went to sleepovers. Good. But I told them very early what happened to me, so they were comfortable talking to me.
Gotcha.
But I did not want them to be fearful.
How long did it take for you to become comfortable talking about this subject? Was your wife very helpful? I mean,
2012. So it took me 20 years from 1990. So it took me a total of 46 years from when it happened to even speak publicly.
Wow.
But then I got to a point, I realized how many people I was helping, not just from sexual abuse, but a lot of people suffer with anxiety and panic attacks, and they don't know where to turn because they think something's wrong with them. It's just something that happens for different reasons. And I also really want people to understand it's okay to get counseling. There's nothing wrong with counseling. That's why we have them.
Was there any concern on your part about it damaging or casting a bad light on your business acumen, your business success?
That's why I didn't tell anybody. I mean, I was more afraid in '92 that if I told people what I was going through and what was happening to me, they wouldn't do business with me. That's because we didn't talk about it. And I was also afraid they would think, man, is he crazy or something? He having panic attacks?
What's wrong with this guy?
Yeah, he going to counseling. So that's why I speak up, because I don't want people suffering like that. I mean, I suffered in silence because I couldn't tell anybody. I mean, it was only a handful of business people I shared this with.
David, when you look back in terms of your business success, your business acumen, your kids, your family, how much is this aspect of your life been as fruitful or as meaningful as all the buildings you built and the financial acumen you've achieved?
I'm going to say this. Other than my family,
yes, sir,
my business is great. I've enjoyed that. I love it. But this means more to me than anything else. Because I realize there are people, by my sharing my story, who are going to do something so incredible, but they never would have done it if I didn't help them free themselves. Because I had to become free from the past. Because so often we beat ourselves up too long.
But many people beat themselves up over
anything.
Aren't successful. They get absorbed in the pain.
I'm very blessed. If it hadn't been for my wife and my faith.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. My wife pushed me in a way, first of all, she didn't run. A lot of people in these situations, relationships break up. I've seen it. I've talked to people because it was too heavy for the spouse. Doesn't mean man or woman, just the spouse, because it could be either way. But my wife didn't run from it. She ran to me. And she nursed me. She kicked me in my butt when she needed to kick me in my butt. But she also said, we're going to get through this. And she wasn't ashamed. She wasn't, even though it was hard for her. And also when we're going through this in '92, her mother's dying of a brain tumor.
Wow.
So it's up in Michigan. So it's crazy as can be.
I got to tell you, for those who have not seen it, he has a beautiful wife, and he speaks so eloquently and lovingly with her on social media. And really, she seems like she's your rock.
She is my rock.
And you salute her. You really
I do, because she got me through it. And it's so important to give the respects and proper acknowledgement to people who really, and I had some close friends as time went on, but my wife had to live it because we couldn't tell nobody. Because I was afraid the business would disappear because people would be afraid of me. I mean, I was afraid. I will say this, I used to wouldn't let anybody, I would be afraid to be around little kids because I said, man, people find out I've been sexually abused, because that's one of the stereotypes that if you've been sexually abused, you're going to be one. And that's the last thing on my mind. So there were a lot of things I had to kind of deal with because I'm like, but I would never hurt a kid. Hell, I know this pain. Right. So I speak up because there are a lot of people trapped in things, not just sexual abuse, but any kind of trauma, that they just think they're alone. And I just want to let people know you're not alone, but more importantly, you can heal from it, but you can have the most incredible life. I mean, I go hiking. I done the Grand Canyon last year, where I spent 7 nights on the Colorado River, no contact with the world. And one of the greatest things about that trip I learned, I didn't hear no negative noise for 7 days because there was no internet, no phone, no TV, no nothing.
Was that tough?
It was beautiful. First couple of days it was tough. Then I didn't want to reconnect because I realized how much negative noise we hear every day.
You do a lot of traveling, you and your wife, do you know? I mean,
Yeah.
Is that therapeutic, or is it just fun, or
It's both.
or is it business also?
No, it's both. It's business, it's fun and therapeutic, especially because I'm a real nature person, and with my camera, I really got into healing because I used to be afraid to be alone. Because when you, after 92, I didn't like to be alone as I was healing from the anxiety and stuff. Now I go hiking all the time and I get on those trails, and it's just freeing to be out there in nature and just feel the air.
See David Moody known as the quintessential black businessman in Atlanta, or this public speaker now who's freeing folks from their sexual damaging?
Right.
Who is David Moody today?
I like to think of myself as a Renaissance man.
There you go.
I'm not afraid to share my past. I still feel I'm a master builder, but I still have fun. I mean, I can still jam. I can still, I'm an old cute, but I can still step. I sing, not good, but I just enjoy life because I realized when I was going through what I was going through, I missed a lot of life. And what I mean by that, I tell this to people all the time. Live in the moment, be present. When I was going through healing, I wasn't present all the time because I was busy worrying about the other shoe falling or am I gonna have a panic attack? And I'm free from that.
You sure have been present here with us, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, man, it's a pleasure meeting you personally. Really.
And I love that purple you got on, man.
That's your color, right?
That's right.
Ladies and gentlemen, one of the greatest Atlanta businessmen and now author that we could ever meet. He's our Christmas special, if you will. This has been Georgia Power. The producers, Okeeba, Jubalo. I'm Maynard Eaton. Happy holidays. See you next year.